Trickling in, I guess, would be the phrase to describe the pace with which the returns are coming in, reflecting, no doubt, the heavy voter turnout. 9 of 67 precincts reported Rudy Perpich with a substantial lead over the Republican Wheelock Whitney. In the Senate race, for which incumbent Republican David Derenberger was declared the winner a few months ago by CBS. Nevertheless, Mark Dayton in these very early returns has a substantial lead. And these returns, we must point out, are generally from Hennepin County. Let's move on to some of the other state races to see what we have. In the race for Minnesota Attorney General, State Senator Hubert Humphrey against Elliot Rothenberg of St. Louis Park. Mr. Humphrey with 70%, Rothenberg with 28%. For State Treasurer, Bob Matson leads the lone Republican hopeful. The Republicans hoped might get on the, might win a berth in the state cabinet this year. Matson was 63% of the vote to Bon Clayton of Chanhassen, 32%. Auditor, well, the incumbent is the Republican Arnie Carlson. He was elected to that position in 1978. He is trailing. Skip, would you think this is something of a surprise? Paul Wellstone is a relatively, as a matter of fact, absolutely unknown political science professor at Carleton College in Northfield. He won the nomination by virtue of a very dynamic speech at the Democratic nominating convention. Of course,
very little opposition at that convention.
Indeed.
As well,
and it's very early in the evening. 63%.
I don't think that is significant enough, David, with only 11 precincts in to make any kind of a determination on that at all.
All right, so let's move on to Secretary of State, where Joan Groh is the DFL incumbent. She has a substantial lead over Mark Hansen, the Republican, who has said, should he win that position, he would abolish it altogether. Just one race in the Supreme Court for the position on the Supreme Court. It's a seat on the high bench held by John Simonet of Little Falls in St. Paul, 58% to the 42% compiled by Jack Baker, the Minneapolis lawyer. I believe we have something, I am told we have something now in the congressional races. There are really 3 strong, hotly disputed congressional races of the 8. One of them is in the 2nd District in Minnesota, where Vin Weber, who has been the 6th District incumbent congressman, is battling against Jim Nichols, who is a DFL state senator from Lake Benton. And Jim Nichols, as we say again, taking these lightly with this smattering of returns, has a substantial lead over Vin Weber. In the 2nd District, or no, we've just done the 2nd District, we want to go to District number 7, where Arlen Stangland is the Republican incumbent. This is the 3rd time that Republican Stangland and Gene Wenstrom have faced each other. In 1970, Stangland won in a special election to take the seat held by Bob Berglund, and then again in 1980, Gene Wenstrom again was the loser. At this point, with just 3 precincts reporting, Stangland has 70% and Wenstrom has 30%. And then up in the 8th District, where James Oberstar, one would think, would be a shoo-in. He has been elected to that, he was elected to that seat 8 years ago. He has an 82% margin over Marjorie Luce. Pat Miles is keeping her eye on the 4 constitutional amendments on which the voters have been asked to
You know, it's been an interesting year, Dave, with the constitutional amendments. Generally, they don't get a lot of attention from the public, but this year that's not been the case. We have 4 state amendments. They've generated quite a bit of interest. Let's take a look now at some of the early returns. Amendment number 1 would establish an appeals court. And as you can see, we only have 1 out of 4,000 precincts reporting, but it does show a yes vote. Let me point out, though, right at the beginning, that this does not mean, and we may not know if any of these amendments pass tonight, because it does not reflect, this only reflects the number of people who voted for the amendment. And of course, if you didn't vote, that counted as a no vote. It's rather complicated, but it does work out that way. Amendment number 2, what is highway bonding, as you can see, 1,516 for that amendment. That's 11 out of 4,000 precincts. Amendment number 3, this is really the controversial one, on parimutuel betting. One that's generated really the most interest of all the amendments. 11 of 4,000 precincts, and as you can see already, 1,471 yes votes for parimutuel betting. If this particular amendment passes, that means that horse race betting would be constitutional. Then it would be up to the legislature to go on with it. And finally, amendment number 4, similar to 2, would allow for rail improvements. It would allow the state to put out bonds for improvements on railroads. 1,740 votes for that particular amendment. Again, though, let's point out this does not know, and we may not know until tomorrow if these amendments in fact do pass.
Probably can't emphasize that enough tonight,
true.
Pat. Karen Boris is at Rudy Perpich headquarters on the volleyball court of the small Sawmill Bar and Saloon in Virginia. Karen?
Hi, we're at the Sawmill Lounge on the outskirts of Virginia, Minnesota, and we are told that Rudy Perpich is at this moment headed for the Sawmill Lounge and the party that is going on here while people are watching the election returns. Some of the early returns that we have heard here from Duluth: one precinct, 375 for Perpich, 77 for Wheelock Whitney. Another precinct in Duluth, 940 for Rudy Perpich and 121 for Wheelock Whitney. And we've got two precincts in Hibbing, which voted 746 for Perpich, 145 for Whitney. Whitney told me the other day that he thought and expected to get about 35% of the vote here on the Iron Range. These early returns are not an indication that he's going to do that, but then again, there are some areas here in the 8th District that are very strongly DFL and that he wouldn't do much better than this. But as I say, Rudy Perpich, we are told, is headed here for the Sawmill Lounge. People are kind of walking around waiting for him. I'm certain that when he does get here, we'll be going live. Poised over my head at this very moment is a huge plastic container full of hundreds and hundreds of balloons, which, if everything goes right, will be rained down upon the crowd. They are celebrating a victory here, not just based on the CBS projections, but because they came here tonight talking about a victory and discussing really only what the margin would be, not whether or not they would win. Live from Virginia, I'm Karen Boris.
Let us know when Mr. Perpich arrives, Karen, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Skip Loescher has his hands full tonight with no fewer than 201 state legislative races, House and Senate.
Well,
Skip?
at this point, we have just a smattering of returns in, not from anywhere near the 201 races that are going on. And if we can call some of them up now, we can provide you with at least some first-hand statistics on the state legislative race. Senate District number 57, that's a North Minneapolis district with Carl Croning, the DFL incumbent, and with a percentage of 81 to 19 right now, granted just 4 precincts reporting, Croning is well on his way to being reelected. In Senate District 60, again, Hennepin County, 4 of 32 in, Linda Berglund, the DFL incumbent, doing well at this point in her battle with Joyce Reinhardt. Moving along to 60A, a House district from Hennepin County. Janet Clark is the incumbent there, or Karen Clark, rather, is the incumbent there. 74% for Clark at this point to 26% for Bill Craig. Senate District 61, again, Hennepin County, that's South Minneapolis, and this is probably the most interesting of all the state legislative races we will talk about tonight, and it has some repercussions maybe later in the evening we can get into depending who wins. Donna Peterson, 75% right now to Jack Davies, 28%, but there are a lot more votes to be counted there. And 61B in South Minneapolis, Wes Skoglund with 75% over Christensen there. Skoglund doing well with very early returns in. And I am guessing at this point that that's what we have for the time being. So let's go over to Pat. And I guess we have some Wisconsin
Well,
things,
as we said earlier, we sent Jim Gately to Wisconsin tonight to keep an eye on our neighbors. We're going to check in with him right after this commercial.
With the money I spent on this car, it's really gonna last. So when my Amoco dealer said new Ultimate Synthetic Motor Oil could help my engine last longer, I said, prove it. He did.
Amoco put Ultimate up against ordinary motor oil in a hot engine test. Look at the difference in these pistons. Ordinary motor oils left deposits, but Ultimate kept pistons clean and lubricated. It's the ultimate protection for today's harder working engines.
And with the price of today's cars, that's important.
Sandwich, fries, soft drink sundae, that's quite a meal. It's all at your Dairy Queen Brazier store, home of the full meal deal. Sandwich, fries, soft drink sundae, that's the full meal deal.
Now you get a choice with a full meal deal.
You can get it with a hot dog or a fish sandwich
You can get it with a burger.
or a chicken sandwich.
And at a
Great price.
We've got the full meal deal. When you come to Dairy Queen, we treat you right.
Hi, I'm Steve Doyle.
And I'm Pat Brown. On the next PM magazine,
You couldn't be with better people than the Love Boat people. They do it first class.
climb aboard the Love Boat
It's like a dream. It's like a dream for us.
for an exciting star-studded cruise.
Then journey into the past to Pine City for a fascinating French voyageur's rendezvous on the next PM magazine on WCCO television.
He's really on a low rate.
This is intensive care for babies, where premature infants, some weighing little more than a pound, struggle for survival, while their parents watch and wait.
It's okay, honey. It's just mommy. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
Special delivery begins Wednesday on the 10 p.m. report. We understand we have new figures now on the governor and U.S. Senate races. 70 precincts, or 1% of all precincts, reporting. Former Governor Perpich maintains his substantial lead over the Republican challenger, Wheelock Whitney. In the U.S. Senate race, where Mark Dayton had held a Hennepin County lead over David Derenberger, well, just 21 precincts reporting, we would have to assume that these continue to be mostly, primarily, Hennepin results. Pat Miles is keeping her eye on the Ramsey County attorney race against the incumbent Tom Foley and a very strong challenger in a very intensive campaign, Michael DeCourcy.
Well, it has been an interesting race day for people who have followed it. Both of these young men, attorneys, both of them young in their mid-30s, both of them Irish Catholic, and both of them fighting a very hard race for county attorney in Ramsey County. As you can see here, we have 5 of 240 precincts now reporting. It shows Mike DeCourcy ahead, Tom Foley ahead, 54%. He, of course, is the incumbent there, but as you can see, it is close, and we do not have many of the precincts in at this point. That will be an interesting one for us to keep our eyes on throughout the evening.
Let's pick up some, whatever, we flashed momentarily some totals we had on the U.S. Congress seat in the 2nd District. That is, of course, a reapportioned district where Vin Weber is the Republican candidate. He formerly represented the 6th District. He trails now, but again, just 1% of the vote, and he trails Jim Nichols by a small margin. Up in the northwestern part of Minnesota, Arlen Stanglin maintains a 70 to 30% lead over his, for the 3rd time, opponent, DFLer Gene Wenstrom. Up in District 8 in northeastern Minnesota, James Oberstar, who was elected to that position 8 years ago, a very substantial lead again over Marjorie Luce of Pequot Lakes. Miss Luce, very interesting lady. She's 71 years old. She received her Bachelor of Arts degree at the age of 50, and at the age of 60, received her Master of Arts degree.
We have some more returns at this point that are coming in on those state amendments.
Right.
So let's take a look at those now. Amendment number 1, which would establish an appeals court, now 14 out of 4,067 precincts. As you can, well, we didn't see, but I'm assuming that there were more yes votes for that amendment. It's amendment number 1, 14 of 4,067 precincts. Amendment number 2 on highway bonds. Yes votes, 2,343 and only 91 no. Let us emphasize again, though, this only is a count of the number of people who voted on the amendments. Amendment number 3, parimutuel betting, the one that has generated so much controversy. More yes votes for this one, 2,412, with 14 out of 4,067 precincts now reporting. And finally, amendment number 4 on railroad bonding, railroad improvements. 14, again, of 4,067 precincts and 2,708 yes votes. So it should be interesting, but I don't think, Dave, that we'll know really whether those amendments passed or not until tomorrow morning.
Well, we can get an idea of a trend. We can get an idea of what
if it's an overwhelming vote, but you know, last time we thought we knew for sure that some of these amendments had passed, only to wake up the next morning and find out that more people had not voted. So, in effect, they had cast a no vote, which killed the amendments.
We have some more results on the various state races for Attorney General. State Senator Skip Humphrey, opposed by Elliot Rothenberg of St. Louis Park. Again, it's one-sided, just 12 precincts reporting for Treasurer. That for Treasurer now, Robert Mattson with a strong early lead over Bon Clayton of Chanhassen. In the race for Auditor, the office in which Arnie Carlson is the incumbent, he still trails Paul Wellstone, the Carleton College political science professor, with only 14 precincts reporting. Secretary of State Joan Groh, who has been the incumbent to that office since 1975 with a strong lead over Mark Hansen. And for the Supreme Court, John Simonette, who was appointed to the high bench in 1980 with a strong lead over Minneapolis lawyer Jack Baker. I understand now that Jim Gately in Milwaukee, WTMJ, has results for us on some Wisconsin races. Jim?
David, we have early indications on the Wisconsin's governor's race and the Wisconsin Senate race. Let's first look at the Wisconsin governor's race. With only 2% of the vote in, Anthony Earl, the Democrat, has 68%. Terry Kohler, the Republican, a wealthy industrialist, with 32%. We should add that two networks, including CBS, have projected that Earl will be the next governor of Wisconsin. Let's now turn to the Wisconsin Senate race, where veteran William Proxmire appears headed back to Capitol Hill. There are only 2% of the results in on that race. However, Proxmire has 74%. Scott McCallum, a young Republican senator from Fond du Lac, has 26%. And we should add there that in the past two elections, Proxmire has won with more than 70% of the vote. Those are the early returns. We should also add that some of the networks have also predicted that Proxmire will go back to the Senate, and that's really not much of a surprise. McCallum was not expected to do much, and he has come through in that way. That's it for now, David. We'll be back to you a little bit later with more results in the congressional district races.
Thank you, Jim. Mike Walsh is standing by at Whitney headquarters at the Thunderbird with Mr. Whitney's running mate, Loris Krennick. Mike?
Right you are, Dave. The mood here is low-key. None of the major candidates has yet appeared before their volunteers. We understand that Wheelock Whitney may be coming out to talk to the Independent Republican Party workers within the next hour or so. Loris Krennick, though, has spoken to the crowd. He is the running mate with Wheelock Whitney. CBS News, Loris, says that Perpich is going to win 53-47. Do you believe that?
It's entirely possible. I don't want to argue with CBS News. Heaven knows.
Well, what are your polls have been showing you behind? Will you be surprised if you lose?
No, we won't be surprised. We were prepared to take whatever the verdict of the people of Minnesota was, and as you say, our poll showed us behind, so we won't be real surprised.
Will you go back to farming?
You bet. That's. I'll have a job tomorrow morning anyway. That's one nice thing about it.
Have you talked with Mr. Whitney this evening?
Yes, I have.
What is his mood?
Yeah, he feels the same way I do. That we're prepared to take whatever happens.
Do you think you lost momentum in the 2 weeks after the primary?
Well, we've had a lot of criticism for not going out and really going after the campaign in the 2 weeks after the primary, but that. It takes a lot of money to go out and advertise that much, and we hit it hard for about the last 3 weeks, and still ended up with a very expensive campaign. So we were not inactive after the primary. We didn't have a lot of media going for us, but we were both out working.
All right, very good. Loris Krennick, the running mate with Wheelock Whitney, thank you for joining us. Mike Walsh reporting live from the Thunderbird Motel.
Very good. Let's see if we can pick up some additional totals in the Minnesota gubernatorial race. Rudy Perpich early in the evening with a smattering of returns had picked up and has, as it turned out, maintained a strong lead with only 2% of the precincts reporting over Wheelock Whitney. In the U.S. Senate race, Mark Dayton has a stronger lead, but that's dwindling now as more of the outstate votes come in. It would seem that Dayton all but took Hennepin County. It'll be interesting to see what the breakdown of that vote is. Right now, his lead is 57% over 42%, but if you joined us late or joined anybody late, you know that CBS declared Senator Durenberg the winner. Pat has some results from Ramsey County.
We are getting some results from Ramsey County right now, Dave. Let's turn to the Ramsey County attorney race, the one we talked about earlier. As you can see, Tom Foley now with 11 of 240 precincts now in with 55% of the vote to DeCourcy's 45%. Again, those are early returns, so that looks to be a close race already. The Ramsey County Sheriff race, it looks as if Chuck Zacharias was 72%. Over his opponent, Leroy Humphrey, who's 70 years old, has a substantial lead with 11 of 240 precincts now reporting. In the Ramsey County Commissioner race in District 5, this was an interesting race, should be an interesting race tonight. Ruby Hunt, the former city councilwoman, running against Tony Dana, the incumbent. Looks like Ruby Hunt with 58% now, but that's only 5 of 45 precincts reporting. This is going to be a close one too, I do think. The Ramsey County Commissioner race in District 6, This is Warren Shaber with 71% now. That's 5 of 34 precincts reporting over his opponent Dale Carmichael, who is a Central High School teacher, with 29% of the vote. In the Hennepin County race for sheriff, as you can see, Don Olmott with 66% now in. That's 16 of 439 precincts reporting over Charles Stenvig. Stenvig said it would take a miracle to pull this one out, but he was looking for one tonight. In the Hennepin County Commissioner race in District 1 with 6 of 68 precincts now reporting. As you can see, this could be a close one tonight with Spart's 59% over Norman's 41%, so we'll keep an eye there. In District 7, the Hennepin County Commissioner race with 9 of 64 precincts reporting. This again is going to be a close race and one that everybody's been keeping an eye on. Mark Andrew with 54% over the incumbent Nancy Olcon right now, 46%. We are going to wait, though, until we hear from that St. Louis Park area because that's where Nancy Olcon was so strong in the primary race last time. This is going to be a very interesting, very close race tonight, and one I'm anxious to see the outcome of because it is going to change, I think, the complexion of that board if Mark Andrew is elected.
I believe Tom Hendrick is standing by somewhere. He's one of our roaming and roving correspondents tonight with Nancy Olcon. What are her feelings at this point, Tom?
Yes, Nancy, we've just learned that you are behind. Did you expect that, the early returns from Minneapolis?
Yes, essentially, I think that would be the case because, of course, my strongest area has been St. Louis Park traditionally, and it was in the primary, and those results normally are not available this early.
So you do expect to regroup and win?
I think that is very likely, but we won't know until all the votes are in.
What's been the major issue in this campaign? Has it been you as a maverick politician, not endorsed by the DFL?
Well, that, of course, is an issue. I've addressed myself primarily to the issue of how local government is going to respond to the cutbacks in funding from the state and federal government without unduly raising property taxes. I've seen that as the major issue in the campaign, and have tried very hard to avoid personality differences and other kinds of issues. It's been a very difficult campaign, certainly been very difficult in terms of the kinds of actions I've had to take because of my opponent's campaign.
Well, tell me about your complaints and the special prosecutor I understand has been appointed.
Well, I have made a complaint to the Office of the County Attorney, and that is presently under investigation. And because that is being investigated and there's a possibility of criminal indictment, it would not be appropriate to discuss the details of the complaint. But my complaint will be amended as I add some additional charges because of some more literature that my opponent put out during the campaign. So I think there may be 15 to 20 items.
Okay, but you are confident?
Well, I think it's very clear that there are violations of the law, and I think but that proceeding will take some time.
Okay, thank you. We'll be back with more later.
And we now shall try to pick up some more additional results, that is, in the state races, beginning with Minnesota Attorney General Skip Humphrey with a strong lead with, I guess, 28 precincts reporting over Elliot Rothenberg of St. Louis Park. Mr. Rothenberg, a Minnesota legislator. In the race for treasurer, these totals, percentages have not changed appreciably in the last 10 minutes or so, with a strong lead over Bon Clayton, a Chanhassen businessman. Auditor, Arnie Carlson still trails Paul Wellstone of Northfield, 58 to 42%, with again a handful of precincts reporting. Secretary of State, Joan Groh, the DFL incumbent, has been since '75 with a strong lead over her Republican challenger Mark Hansen, and Justice John Simonette, who was appointed to the High Court in Minnesota in 1980 with a substantial lead over Jack Baker, the Minneapolis lawyer, 61 to 39. Skip is sorting out his legislative cards, and we will return to him in just a moment after this word.
Look, Murph, gas is gas.
Hey, Doc, is blood?
Uh-oh.
What? Like blood, there's type A and type B.
Right. Nick.
Same as gasoline. It's the lifeblood of your car. Up there, they sell type A. Over there, they sell type B. Around the corner.
What I think Nick is trying to say is that Union 76 gasoline has a combination of additives that our scientists call
Type S.
Type S. Type S.
Gasoline with spirit.
Fill her up with spirit.
A little type S, Doc?
The spirit of 76.
When you have Velveeta slices around, you have to keep on your toes. Know why? They're so good that people want to trade you. Girls are the worst. Oh, girls. So watch out for tricks. Could I have one just for practice? just for practice. I'm a sucker for little kids.
New Velveeta slices with a taste you wouldn't trade for just anything.
At WCCO Television, we don't think a sportscaster should be a cheerleader for the home team. A sportscast should be like any other good piece of journalism. It should dig deep and hit hard. Now, from now on, you'll see a new kind of sports coverage on the 10 p.m. report. One that brings to sports the kind of insight and excitement that sports deserve. Join us for the new 10 p.m. report on WCCO Television. News for thinking people.
Checking out totals in the Minnesota governor's race finds Rudy Perpich with his strong lead over Wheelock Whitney with only 2% of the precincts reporting. And in the Senate race, the last time we looked at this race, David Derenberger had, well, it's the same as it was 5 minutes ago, had closed the gap. It's still 57% for Mark Dayton over David Derenberger's 42% at 8:22 tonight. CBS News called the race in favor of Senator Derenberger. Let's go to Jim Gately in the studios of WTMJ in Milwaukee for the latest Wisconsin returns. Jim?
Well, David, as you know, we only have 2% of the votes in for Anthony Earl, about the next governor of Wisconsin, but the networks have projected Mr. Earl to be there. Now, a few moments ago, Mr. Earl did come out in Madison and just gave kind of an unofficial pre-acceptance speech. And now let's go to Madison to hear from the apparent winner.
This has been a long campaign, getting sort of tired. My ears are getting bad, my eyes are getting watery, but as the Milwaukee Journal says, I got this big schnoz, and you know what? I smell victory. Thank you very much.
Appearing with Anthony Earl right there was Jim Flynn, who's the running mate, the lieutenant governor. Also, we have a few results now in, very preliminary results in from the 7th Congressional District. So if we can go to the Wisconsin 7th Congressional District race, just 1% of the vote in, but it looks like that David Obey, a veteran who was first elected back in 1969, will be returning to Capitol Hill. He leads condominium developer Bernard Zimmerman 78% to 22%. That's it for now in Milwaukee. Back to Skip.
Thank you, James. We have some legislative races to run through here, and we have a number of them. I'm not sure totally what all the new returns we have in, so if we can go to our election computer readouts, we'll find out together just exactly which races we have some new returns in for. But without that, I still don't quite have new returns to give you. So at this point, let's talk about something else for half a second while they get caught up there. It strikes me as interesting at this point that the CBS News estimate gives Perpich 57% of the vote, and as our votes even trickle in, that margin that originally started out at close to 70% has trickled down now to be much closer to what CBS is estimating that it will turn out to be for the final analysis that night. Perpich said he had to have somewhere about 44 to 45% in southeastern Minnesota, in the metro area, and western Minnesota to win, but he needed 70% on the Iron Range. I would guess he got a lot more than 70% on the Iron Range. Senate District 58. These are state legislative races. Hennepin County, 2 of 26 precincts in. Hogemiller leading there. He is a DFL incumbent over Long. Senate District 61, 3 of 32 precincts in. This is the big one between Jack Davies and Donna Peterson. Peterson maintaining her edge right now. There are a lot more precincts to go, and that could be a very tough race and a very close one. Jack Davies, as you may well know, running as an independent. He is president of the Senate at this point. In 59, Alan Spear losing at this point, but with 1 of 27 precincts in, I don't think you can say that that vote is necessarily going to hold up at all, but we'll have to wait and see. In District 66, Ramsey County, 5 of 37 in there. Gene Waldorf, 84%. That's a substantial lead for him, and the chances are he'll be able to maintain that. Senate District 65, again, Ramsey County, the central area of St. Paul. Don Moe off to a big lead over his Republican opponent. Don Moe's district considered fairly safe for him. And I would guess at that point that's what we have for now. David, let's go to something else.
Well, I've been told that we probably have some new totals for the state treasurer's race. Jim Lord, you know, has been the DFL incumbent in that office for many years. He has chosen not to run. Bon Clayton has been the Republican challenger. Well, there are two challengers, Bon Clayton of Chanhassen and Robert Mattson from Britt, Minnesota, or his opponents like to say Robert Mattson, more accurately put, is from Florida. The last time we looked at those totals, Mr. Mattson, and they call this on a name recognition situation, is leading at Bon Clayton. We're going to return to the CBS network, and then we will return to Computer Vote Total headquarters in about a half hour.
Illinois, Pennsylvania, Texas, the California race still out. Polls not even closed there. Senate races galore. Virginia, the Republicans have a very good chance to pick up a Senate seat, which they need to do now. In Virginia, the race there is so close. In Rhode Island, a tight race indicated. Missouri, Vermont. If you're asking why we at CBS News have not yet called the governor's races in such places as Pennsylvania and New York, here's the reason. We're pretty conservative. Warren Matofsky and the others who keep track of such things for us, they see that Thornburg, yes, he probably will win in Pennsylvania. Cuomo probably will win in New York, but we simply think it's too early to say that. Bob Schieffer, one of the better pieces of news for the Republicans was the returning of Lowell Weicker. Even if he is a maverick, he's a Republican, and the Democrats have picked up a net gain of 2 in the Senate. And with things that close in the Senate, I would think that the Republicans would be very relieved for Weicker to win that race.
Howard Baker, the majority leader for the Republicans in the Senate, will be happy to get every vote he can get, especially now. One of the reasons he went to Connecticut and campaigned for Weicker. He knew it was going to be very close, and indeed it was. This was a crucial one for the Republicans. It was in Connecticut, Dan, that the Democrats simply was unable to make the Democratic issues work as other Democrats have made them work tonight. One of the reasons, of course, is that Lowell Weicker is a Republican who votes like a Democrat. Let's whip through some of these other close races. Out in New Mexico, this was the big win for the Democrats out there. Harrison Schmitt, the former astronaut, lost tonight to the Attorney General out there, Jeff Bingaman. I was out there, Dan, and I knew Schmitt was in some trouble when I talked to him about would it help if Ronald Reagan comes out here. And he said, I think he could be of most help out around Roswell. Well, most of the population, 1/3 of the population of New Mexico is in Albuquerque. So that had to tell you that Reaganomics was not working out there. Bingaman knew it wasn't, and he stressed the economy in a state that had high unemployment, and it worked for him. Out in Montana, the incumbent Jake Melcher has won out there. This was one of the ones, Dan, that the Democrats were a little worried about. There was a strong conservative, the Nick Pack outfit went in out there against Melcher. It did not work. He ran a very effective campaign against them. He, too, stressed the economy, and he has won tonight. And I must say that Melcher ran, Dan, my favorite commercial of the whole campaign. He is
talking cows.
The one candidate who had cows on his side, or said he did, and we're going to show it. Here it is. Let's look at it.
For over a year now, a pack of East Coast politicos have been scurrying into Montana with briefcases full of money, trying to convince us our Senator Melcher is out of step. Montana isn't buying it, especially those who know bull when they hear it.
Did you hear about those city slickers out here bad-mouthing Doc Melcher? One of them was stepping in what they've been trying to sell. He kept calling me a steer. That'll all come as some surprise to Junior there.
There it is, Dan. Moo cows for Melcher. He is the only veterinarian in the Senate, too, by the way.
Well, you know, what can you say?
There's not much to say about that.
The amazing thing is it seems to have worked, that Melcher did seem to be in trouble before that particular commercial began working for him out there. You know, what can one say? This is the most expensive Congress, Senate, and House that money can buy. So a lot of the money went for commercials of that kind. Leslie, the Republicans are fighting a very close race in Texas, trying to hold on to their state house there. I haven't heard anything about that. Do you have anything on it?
Well, I can tell you that it's a case, again, where a lot of money is being spent on the Republican side, William Clements. It'll be a test there of whether money, he's spending about $12 million, can overcome a huge Democratic get-out-the-vote drive. Organized labor never worked harder in Texas to assure that the regular Democrats come out. Something that Clements did this time that kind of have some of the Democrats in the state smirking. Last time, 4 years ago, he won by cutting into the conservative Democrat constituency. But Mark White, the Attorney General, is a conservative Democrat himself. And so William Clements decided to go after the Hispanic vote to make up for the conservative Democrats he expects to lose. And he's going after them because Mark White came out against extending the Voting Rights Act. And Clements has run a commercial linking himself to John F. Kennedy and LBJ in order to attract Hispanics. Let's see it.
Go ahead.
Okay, let's try and see the commercial if we can. Can we?
Well, let's hope we can.
Well, if we can't, I will tell you that you see Clements along with JFK and LBJ supporting voting rights, and the question is, who's the one politician around who didn't? And it's, of course, Mark White, and he's hoping to pick up that vote, but we are unable to tell you right now whether he's doing well there. There is a substantial gender gap. We haven't been talking too much about this alleged gender gap. In some of our states, it has developed, and Texas is one of them. Clements is doing substantially better with men, Mark White with women. The gender gap, however, is not showing up in another state where the race is quite close, and that's Illinois. Jim Thompson was expected to win that race quite easily, particularly after Senator Adlai Stevenson announced to everyone's stunning surprise that he was not a wimp. What was so incredible about that was that no one had even ever accused him of being a wimp. Sort of took over the campaign, but nevertheless, Adlai Stevenson is doing quite well tonight. That race is very close. With 44% of the precincts reporting, you can see that Stevenson's 56% of the vote, but that is not significant because so few of the precincts are in. The CBS News estimate shows it much closer than that, and Stevenson is again attracting the traditional Democrats, getting them to the polls.
Leslie, I'm reminded when we see that commercial for Clements didn't come up, as our audience probably realizes, we have a lot of computer-driven graphics on this broadcast, and as the Old Farmer's Almanac says, to err is to human, but to really foul up, it takes a computer. I also want to point out that while it said winner under Clements, as we showed a picture of him, that CBS News has not called that Texas governor's race. That was a slip on our part. Yes, we make mistakes sometimes. It was a slip on our part when you saw that picture of Clements up with the word winner underneath him. I think everyone will agree that both Mark White and Governor Clements are winners as people, but as regards this race tonight, we've not yet called that one. We'll have more CBS News coverage of Election Night 1982 in a moment.
Now, from Buick and your participating Buick dealer, a remarkable opportunity. Right now, you can get 10.9 annual percentage rate financing when you buy any new 82 Buick. From the front-wheel drive Skyhawk, Skylark, Century, or Riviera to the Regal, LeSabre, or Electra. The selection is great, so grab this chance to spread your wings in a new 82 Buick at considerable savings. Get 10.9 annual percentage rate financing. Take retail delivery now through December 31st at your participating Buick dealer.
Who gives you a word processor that has extra performance features as standard equipment and top reliability as rated by users? A processor that will remain the core of your office automation and the backing of a great nationwide sales and service team.
Exxon Office Systems, that's who.
The Exxon 510. A top value in word processing. That's right. Exxon Office Systems. Call 800-327-6666.
Delicious hot cereal. What is it?
Great. What is it?
Yummy. What is it?
Grape nuts?
It's a great hot taste from an unexpected place. Hot grape nuts. The recipe's easy. The result? A savory blend of wholesome wheat and barley, deliciously hearty, uniquely grape nuts. For a great hot taste from an unexpected place, hot grape nuts cereal.
Yes, it is true that CBS News has not, at least not yet, said that there are winners in the gubernatorial races in Pennsylvania, Illinois, and Texas. One reason is that we're cautious. We have in mind the race between James Rhodes, the now retiring Republican governor in Ohio, and Richard Celeste, who won tonight in his gubernatorial race. But in the last governor's race in Ohio, we remember all too well that virtually everyone had said that Celeste had won. This is when he was running against Rhodes. And even James Rhodes himself went to bed believing that he'd lost. He woke up the next morning, found out that he'd won the race, and he said ever since, listen, CBS News was the only one that said that I had a chance, and I'll never forget it. Now, this year, by the way, Rhodes called a friend of his and said a Republican friend of his and says, listen, it's going to be bad out there. Get in the weeds. Better get down. Better get your head down. Better hide, because it's really going to be rugged. Well, it's too early to say that it's been all that tough on the Republicans tonight. They still have some very important races to be decided out in the West, where President Reagan campaigned vigorously, and they could come back some. In Vermont, this is good news for the Republicans. And you now see the Republicans coming back. Big win. Impossible to overstate this one. Republican incumbent senator in Vermont, Robert Stafford. Our CBS News estimate is that he has held off the challenge of James Guest, the former aide to Ted Kennedy. We think that Stafford's final winning margin will be on the order of 54 to 46%. This is not on the basis of exit polls. This is on the basis of a CBS News estimate on sample precincts and votes actually in and counted. Stafford, the Republican, wins a big one in Vermont. And what that probably means, what we say may mean, that the Democrats have been stopped in their effort to regain control of the Senate. Yes, in Vermont, the race has been decided. In Virginia, Missouri, to name two very tight races that haven't been decided, and keeping in mind that the Democrats picked up a Senate seat in New Mexico, it is still possible for the Democrats to regain control of the Senate, but Stafford's big win in Vermont makes that less likely than it was before.
WCCO Television, in cooperation with Control Data, present Computer Vote Total.
Something we would otherwise never dream of doing, interrupting Dan Rather and the CBS network, but we are going to do so to go to Rudy Perpich headquarters with Karen Boris in Virginia. Karen? Well, we can see that Mr. Perpich has made his entrance into the Sawmill Bar and Saloon, where he is embraced by his followers after it had been announced.
I think Just Go Nuts is probably the best way to describe here. Perpich is obviously very, very pleased tonight. The bands are playing. They have 3 bands going here. And they are giving him a warm, warm welcome, and he is returning it. He's talking to everybody, big smile. His wife Lola is with him. His children, Mary Sue and Rudy, are somewhere in that enormous body-to-body crowd. We're here on a volleyball court is where we are. It is packed wall-to-wall with people. A big sign here. Thank you, dear friends, Rudy and Lola. You can see there on the podium. He's getting close. He looks like he might actually make it up there to the speaker's stand. People have been waiting for about the last 45 minutes when the rumors started that Rudy Perpich was on his way. As I think I've said earlier, people here have not been talking about whether or not they would win. The talk tonight has all been about by how much they would win. They are, that's just a sample of the kind of cheers. I say you can see that that Perpich is obviously quite pleased. A chorus of "For He's a Jolly Good Fellow" is sort of spontaneously breaking out. These are happy folks tonight, and that's a very, very happy candidate, as you can all see. They're going to try to get him up here on the podium, and if they do, you can hear them chant now. You can see he's having a little bit of trouble making his way through the crowd, but he's loving every minute of it. People are giving him big hugs, and I think just about everybody in the place is giving him a big kiss. They are obviously, there it is, he's just about ready to make it up to the podium now. I think the last hurdle is here, and I think we're about to hear from Rudy Perpich. If he can disengage himself from his loyal fans, you can see Senator Doug Johnson motioning him toward the podium. Waves at the crowd. I've just been told that this is just a normal range party here. They probably do this every Tuesday night, but somehow I don't think so. You can see Senator Dickwitz from Hibbing there in the background. more congratulations. They've been talking here. One of the returns that they've just been reading, they read a precinct a few minutes ago from Virginia where Rudy Perpich got 289 votes to 27 votes. For Wheelock Whitney, I was standing with the person from Hibbing who said as soon as they find out who those 27 Republicans are, they're going to have a talk with them. This is a very, very happy group of Now we're singing the Minnesota Rouser. There's a lady with Perpich stickers in her hair. And the candidates got to do that last hurdle to get up on the podium here. This is the moment people have been waiting for since Perpich came back to the States this summer and said that he wanted to take a crack at it. A lot of people laughed at him at that point and said, you've been gone from the country for 3 years. How can you possibly think of running for governor? He ran in the primary that he wasn't supposed to win with no money. There he is. Got to the podium. That's more of a battle than winning the election almost to get through this crowd. Accepting some more congratulations from campaign workers there. And I think it's finally happened. He's gotten to the microphone and he's going to walk past it. Probably at this point he doesn't know there's a microphone there. As I say, these people have worked a long, long time for this moment, and they want to savor as much of it as possible. It was the race that wasn't supposed to be. What we've just been told is Perpich is ahead by 30%. That's just been confirmed that the last totals show Perpich ahead of Wheelock Whitney by 30%. There is the candidate, his wife Lola, his daughter Mary Sue, and the yellow sweater, his son Rudy, now blocked by him. And I think we have, the moment has arrived. So we finally got him to the microphone. That's taken almost 10 minutes for him to walk through this crowd and get to the podium. As I say, we're packed. People are packed body to body here in the volleyball court. Whoops. Here in the volleyball court at the Sawmill Lounge and Saloon in Outer Virginia. I think he's actually going to speak at this point. As I say, it's taken him almost 10 minutes to get across the floor here, and the band has stopped, and everybody's acting like they expect a speech. And I can't see. I think that was Congressman Oberstar that came up there just ever so briefly. Now it's there we are. We're finally to the microphone. He obviously has more important things to do with shaking hands and getting congratulations than to address the crowd. But I think we're about to hear from him. But I've been wrong a few times during the last few minutes. He keeps turning towards the microphones. That is Congressman Oberstar, who's with him now. It's interesting to hear if he is ready to accept victory that the CBS network projected for him almost 2 hours ago. That's, I think, his father there on the far end. That's and his mother there in the white.
I think it's looking pretty good. We're going to wait just a little longer. And the reason we're waiting a little longer, Lola and my family are pinching me to convince me that it's true. I have a lot of people to thank who have worked so very, very, very hard. I am, as you know, very happy. All of us are. But the victory isn't complete until we get a better reading on Mark Dayton's race. If Mark Dayton is listening, and to his supporters, I want to remind you that 2 months ago, I went to bed way behind, and I woke up and I'd won. believe that there is more than just hope, because the tremendous turnout in northeastern Minnesota is unprecedented in the history of the state. They ran out of ballots, as you know. In some places they actually ran out of ballots. We're going to wait. When you see some of those majorities, I understand they're 9 and 10 to 1. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. That's in our race, but I'm sure that a lot of that is going to be also in Mark Dayton's. So what I want to do is just move around with the family, shake hands with as many of you as possible. I want to get over to the tent also. I guess there's some people over there. And then we'll be back after we get some more results. So again, have a good time, mingle, and we'll see you in about an hour. I'll be back up here, okay?
I don't think this crowd needs to be told to have a good time. They have been having just that since about 6 o'clock this evening. Former governor, about to be apparently the next governor, if you believe CBS's projection, is now going to mingle some more with this group of fans. And I think we'll probably hear more from him later, whether or not he's going to accept victory or concede defeat. He is and has expressed some concern about the Mark Dayton race. People saying that he told me earlier this afternoon that regardless of when he wins or loses, he intends to wait out the Dayton results, which could go quite late. So we might be done here early, but it might take them some time. You can see now the family there on the podium kind of waving, folks having a good time, and Rudy Perpich circulating through the crowd. I'm live in Virginia. My name's Karen Boris. You haven't seen me at all. I've just been sort of scrunched down here trying to stay out of the trample. So back to you in the Twin Cities.
Let's check the latest gubernatorial figures. We've had a lapse of about 25 minutes since last we did check. Well, Mr. Perpich has increased his lead slightly. Still, only 4% of the vote reporting, 68% for Rudy Perpich, 31% for Wheelock Whitney. Checking again on the Minnesota Senate race. 8% of the precincts reporting. Mark Dayton, 55% of the vote. Senator David Durenberger, 44%. At 22 minutes after 8 o'clock tonight, CBS declared the race in favor of Senator Durenberger. The network did not offer any figures. Now we understand the figures are 51% to 49% for Senator Durenberger, and close enough, certainly, to be assured, I would think, for the DFL, a possible margin of error. Is Mr. Hatch aware of that, Alan?
We told him about that a few minutes ago, Dave, and let's get his reaction. Dave Moore asking about your reaction to CBS News closing its estimate from a 6-point victory for Durenberger to a 2-point.
Well, I think they may have to revise it again before this night, so perhaps change the names. It's a very unusual race for Minnesota in terms of a U.S. Senate race. We've got the Iron Range with this record turnout. We've heard of 80% turnout by noon in cities like Virginia. They literally run out of ballots in some areas. In Duluth, we've had one precinct report about 850 votes for Dayton and about 150 votes for Durenberger. When you're dealing with those type of margins there, plus I think Mark is going to do much better in the rural area, in the agricultural area, than Democrats normally do because of the consequences of the Reagan program, the Farm Bill. You combine that, you can't really project that off of exit polling because generally in exit polling you're looking at historical performance, and I think this election is going to defy the historical performance of U.S. Senate races, and Dayton can still very well pull this thing off.
How well do you think Dayton has done in the suburbs?
Well, I think that's the problem area for Democrats and Republicans. That's a swing area, and perhaps I frankly think that Mark might not do as well in the suburbs, but he's going to do much better in the rural area. That's been the suburbs around the metropolitan area haven't really felt the effect of Reaganomics and the unemployment rate and the real depression that the interest rates have caused as much as the rural area and certainly the Iron Range and the inner core of Minneapolis-St. Paul.
DFL Chair Mike Hatch, thank you very much. Mark Dayton is now scheduled to speak to the crowd here at the Sheraton Ritz at about 5 minutes after 10. Pat?
That's going to be a very interesting race and a close one indeed, is it not? We're going to check in now with Jim Gately, who is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, checking the Senate and congressional races over there. Jim?
Hello, Pat. We have some updates on the Wisconsin governor's race with 11% of the votes in. And let's go to that Wisconsin governor's race. 11% in. Anthony Earl, the Democrat, is beating Terry Cole, the Republican, by a better than 2-to-1 margin. Now let's go to the Wisconsin Senate race, and really, to no one's surprise, William Proxmire, who's been in the Senate for 25 years, apparently will be going back with 10% of the vote in. He has 74% compared to Scott McCallum, the Republican senator, state senator, with just 26%. Just a few moments ago, we talked with Senator Proxmire.
I think in this century, I don't think we've ever had a victory of this dimensions.
You're going back into the Senate. What do you hope to accomplish? You're going back in. We still don't know yet how the Senate's going to turn out, whether we're going to stay the course with Reaganomics or what's going to happen. When you head back to Washington, what do you hope to do?
Well, there's several things. One, I've introduced legislation that would stop our sending nuclear materials or nuclear equipment to any country that had not signed the Non-Proliferation Pact. Now, that's a complicated issue, perhaps on election night, but it's very important. We, for instance, are ready to send a press to South Africa that can shape nuclear weapons. Absolutely insane. We shouldn't do that. My amendment that I put in would prevent that unless the President finds it's in the national security interest and Congress has a chance to veto it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Senator. Once again, congratulations. I should add that for the past 2 times, the Senator has captured more than 70%. That was Senator William Proxmire, the newly elected and longtime veteran senator from Wisconsin. If you think Senator Proxmire is new to the Senate, he took the seat when Joseph McCarthy died, and that was a long time ago, 1957. Now back to Minneapolis, St. Paul.
And we'll be back with more of Computer Vote Total in just a moment.
You say Arby's, you say masterful, you say Arby's, you say colorful, you say Arby's, you say youthful, you say Arby's, you say handful, Arby's, you say brimful, you say Arby's, you say wonderful. You say Arby's, 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 you said a mouthful.
Arby's, great taste. You said a mouthful.
Would you please let me in? I'm out of Miracle Whip. We're closed. Come back tomorrow.
A sandwich just isn't a sandwich without Miracle Whip salad dressing, the bread spread from Kraft.
They're closed.
They're closed.
When Dave's company transferred him to L.A., it was up to me to pack up the kids and head west. The last thing I needed was the muffler to go bad. But I went to Midas. They had just the muffler for our old Ford. They worked fast, and Midas treated me like a human being. Sure glad I went to Midas.
We're nothing but the best he's ever gonna do. Trust the Midas touch.
Look, Murph, gas is gas.
Hey, Doc, is blood?
Uh-oh.
Well, like blood, there's type A and type B.
Right.
Nick. Same as gasoline. It's the lifeblood of your car. Out there, they sell type A. Over there, they sell type B. Around the corner,
What I think Nick is trying to say is that Union 76 gasoline has a combination of additives that our scientists call...
Type S.
Type S. Type S.
Gasoline with spirit.
Fill her up with spirit.
A little type S, Doc?
The spirit of 76.
WCCO Television, in cooperation with Control Data, present Computer Vote Total.
More returns are coming in now. We'll look at the moment at the gubernatorial race, which which Rudy Perpich has claimed up in Virginia. 10% of all precincts have now reported Mr. Perpich with a 65 to 34% lead over Wheelock Whitney. Skip.
Indeed. And we have a bunch of national races, too, to take a look at now, David. From CBS, some major races have come in. Richard Lugar has won in Indiana. Millicent Fenwick has lost in New Jersey to Frank Lautenberg, the millionaire who sunk a lot of money into beating her, and it worked. Jack Bingham in New Mexico has defeated the incumbent Jack Schmidt. That's a major Senate loss for the Republicans. Toby Moffett going against Lowell Weicker in Connecticut. Weicker appears, the maverick Republican, to have held on to his seat. That's a major defeat for the Democrats. Moffett thought he might be able to pull it off. James Guest losing in Vermont to Stafford. Not a particularly unexpected loss there. Robert Byrd has been returned to the Senate from West Virginia. Howard Metzenbaum from Ohio. James Sasser, Quentin Burdick, John Hines, Paul Sarbanes from a slew of states. They're all incumbents. Lloyd Benson from Texas. William Roth has been returned, as is Daniel Patrick Moynihan, Ed Zarinsky, Dennis DeConcini, and Dave Dernberger, according to CBS.
By 51 to 49%.
By 51 to 49, which means we may be here till 4 in the morning to find out if that's right.
Mike Walsher is with the Wheelock Whitney headquarters at the Thunderbird. Mike?
Right, Dave. About half an hour or so ago, Wheelock Whitney left his private suite and walked through his crowd of campaign workers and his most avid supporters here at the Thunderbird. It was an intense and emotional scene. People who have worked for up to 18 hours a day for the 56-year-old civic leader and retired investment banker, facing up to the inevitable, facing the fact that Wheelock Whitney will not win the governor's mansion of Minnesota tonight. Whitney, as always, throughout this campaign, was cool, he was upbeat, he was smiling. The crowd, after a time, broke into a chorus of "We love Whitney, we love Whitney." The candidate then retired to his suite. He will appear in the main ballroom after 10:30. I'm told at 10:35 tonight. At that time, it is a good bet, I think it's fair to say, that Wheelock Whitney will concede the election to Rudy Perpich. Whitney's campaign never really found a central gut-level theme after the primary, a theme that could catch on with the voters. He ran as, quote, a governor who can manage, and he spent close to $2 million, perhaps more.